What is up, my brothers from another mother? Today's video is going to be a fun one for me to make anyway. I get to talk about three things that I really enjoy: entrepreneurship, red pill awareness, and cars. So let's talk about Elon Musk and Tesla and his blue pilling. Let me start here. I'm just going to minimize this. There was the new Tesla Roadster just announced last week. I posted a picture of it on my Instagram. Just entrepreneurs_in_cars if you want to follow me there. And their declared stats for this, I guess, pre-production practice vehicle that they released: 620-mile range, tons of torque, over 250 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds, 0 to 100, 4.2, and the quarter mile, which is something I fully understand very well because I've done a lot of drag racing, is 8.8 seconds. 8.8 seconds is really, really, really fast. To put that in perspective, the holy trinity of hypercars, which was only released in the last, I think, 4 or 5 years roughly, which is the LaFerrari, the 918 Spider, and the P1 from McLaren, could all do the quarter mile in around 9.5 seconds. Really, really fast cars. So he's declaring that this will do it under 9 seconds, which is a missile. There's no doubt that electric cars put down tons of power. They apply it immediately because there's no lag. It's like 100% torque from 0 RPM. I think that hitting this benchmark is going to be a bit of a stretch, if I'm being honest. Also, there's a reason why you don't see Teslas doing lap times on the Nürburgrings. They kind of suck at navigating racetracks simply because they weigh a lot. They're declaring about 200 kilowatt hour batteries in this particular car, which is double a Model S P100D. So yeah, it'll have a ton of electrical capacity, but they're heavy, and electric motors don't do well on a long-term basis around a racetrack because when you're racing, you're driving the cars at 9 tenths, 10 tenths most of the time. So not sure about how that's going to do, but what I want to talk about next is how people perceive Tesla. Tesla and Elon Musk have a godlike persona, I guess, in the marketplace. One of the things that I've noticed whenever I watch a release for Tesla on one of their new products, and I'm just going to switch over here. This is just a YouTube video on the release of the Roadster, which included their semi trucks. Now, I've just paused it at the end here, and I'll tell you why in a second. Because in almost every release, whether it was a Model 3, the roof shingles, the solar panel roof shingles, whatever it is, there's always somebody in the audience that will say this. Save us, Elon! So there's always the save us, Elon guy. So there's no doubt that Elon Musk has a cult-like following. The guy makes rocket ships. He has a solar panel company, a battery company, a car company. He's talking about making semi-trucks. The problem that I have with a lot of the stuff that he's doing, and I admire him for his work and the way he's trying to change the world and the direction that we go. He's an innovator. He's a disruptor. It's cool. I dig it. But where he's missing out in life, where he's sucking in life, is his blue pill conditioning, which I'll talk about in a moment. Now, the thing about Tesla, I do a lot of my own stock investing for my retirement portfolio. So this is his current stock. It looks like it's running in real time. This is Yahoo Finance. And the earnings per share and the price earnings ratio, I'm not sure why PE ratio doesn't show on here, but EPS, it's a negative 4.85. And all that really means in layman's terms, without getting to too much detail, the company's burning money. It doesn't make money. It's been burning cash for a long time. The stock's been pretty static for the last little bit, hasn't moved very much. It doesn't matter what you announce or what you say you're going to do. People, especially investors, don't really care so much about what you talk about. It's what's your track record? What are you producing? What are you putting out there? What are my rate of returns? And if you've got a company that's burning through cash, and I think one of the problems that he's got is quite simply that he's, one, he's got blue pill conditioning, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But he's also got this problem where he's, again, the jack of all trades, but masters of nothing just yet. I really wish that he would laser focus on one or two things instead of trying to do so many things, because it's very hard to do them very well. And as we're showing here, again, numbers don't lie. I'm just pointing the facts. There's going to be some guys, you're a hater. You hate Elon Musk. I don't. He's a cool dude. I like what he's doing in the world. He just has very blue pill conditioning. And I have a feeling this is probably one of the things that's holding him back. So this is actually an article that one of my Patreons forwarded me to do, I guess, some commentary on. So this was the main point of the video. So let's hop into this point. This is an article put together by Neil Strauss. If you're not familiar with Neil Strauss, I do like some of his books. I've listened to The Game, which is basically his pickup artistry community storytelling, how he kind of immersed himself into that. But the better part of that book series was the one that followed that, which was The Truth About Relationships. And I listen to audiobooks. The way he reads the stories is fantastic. I love how he kind of examined the different aspects of the different kinds of relationships you can have operating as a man in the world. Strauss meets up with Musk at his headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Musk has 3 of his children gathered around him, and they're talking about the business and where he's going. It's kind of an interview. Not a lot of people get access to a guy like this, but because Strauss works for Rolling Stone and writes for Rolling Stone, he gets access to those sorts of personalities. One of the things he mentions early on in the article, one of Musk's ambitions, others include converting automobiles, household, as much of the industry as possible from fossil fuels to sustainable energies, implementing new forms of high-speed to city transportation, vacuum tubes, trying to relieve traffic congestion, honeycomb of underground tunnels fitting with electric skates for cars, commuters, creating mind-computer interfaces to enhance human health, brain power, and saving humanity from the future threat of artificial intelligence that one may run amok. So far, Musk at 46 has accomplished none of the goals. He's talking about a lot of things here. Underground transportation tunnels for your vehicles in congested areas, high-speed city-to-city transportations. That was a Hyperloop thing that he talked about. I don't know if he's tested it or if it's been successfully, proven, some kind of proof of concept. But he talks about a lot of shit, and he's spreading himself all over all of these agendas, and he's not getting a lot done. And I want to talk about his blue pill conditioning, because I really believe this is holding him back. Over here, further in the article, he says, as he's talking with the kids, one of his children leans over to the phone, looking at the table full of numbers that I don't understand. His 13-year-old explains to me, they're betting that the stock goes down and they're getting money off that. But it went up, so they lost an insane amount of money. So Musk then comments and elaborates, these jerks want us to die. They're constantly trying to make up false rumors and to amplify any negative rumors. And it's a really big incentive to lie, to attack my integrity. He says, it's really awful. It's ... and he hesitates. We all know when we've seen Musk speak in public announcements and forums, he's got a stutter. He's got some difficulty communicating his ideas. He's kind of a bumbling nerd. That's just the persona. It's not a disparaging comment. I'm just kind of pointing to the facts. And then he kind of pauses. He trails off, as he often does, preoccupied with thought. Strauss tries to help, saying unethical. Musk continues, he shakes his head and struggles for the right word, then says softly, hurtful. Now, when you're an entrepreneur and you're running a business, people are going to take chops and jabs at you. It's just the reality of the world that you work in as an entrepreneur. It gets lonely at the top when you work hard at these things. People are going to come at you. You've got to have thick skin. I'm actually surprised to read this. Well, not entirely, because of his blue pill condition, which we're going to talk about in a second with a recent breakup that he had. But you've got to have tougher skin. It's got to be like water off a duck's back in a rainstorm. You got to be able to push through things like this. Paying attention to the haters can be very distracting. Mentions over here that the New York Times has called him arguably the most successful entrepreneur in the world currently, and important. Now, the part that I want to get to is he's talking to Musk about the time around the release of the Model 3 in 2017. You can't tell by this picture because he looks very confident and he's, conveying the message about this new vehicle, but he was completely heartbroken. He was a train wreck at this time. Let me just scroll down and go over it. So his kids leave the room, and what follows is complete silence. Musk sits at his desk. This is in front of Strauss as he's doing the interview, looking at his phone but not typing or reading anything. He then lowers himself to the floor and stretches his back on a foam roller. Kind of an unconventional thing to do while being interviewed. When he finishes, Strauss attempts to start the interview by asking about the Model 3 launch the week earlier, and what it felt like to stand on stage and tell the world he just pulled off a plan 14 years in the making to bootstrap with luxury cars and mass market electric car. For those of you that don't know, the Model 3 is kind of his entry-level car. I think the price point was around $30,000 to $40,000, depending on how it's equipped, and it'll go up slightly with the battery pack. Oh, here it is, $35,000 electric car. The accomplishment for Musk is not just making a $35,000 car. It's good, in demand, and that forces other manufacturers to phase out gas cars to compete. So that was around the launch of that car. Musk pauses as he's trying to get into that conversation about the Model 3 Strauss. He's been foam rolling on the ground in front of his interviewer. Musk thinks for a while, begins to answer, then pauses. Actually, let me go to the restroom, and then I'll ask you to repeat that question, a longer pause. I also have to unload other things from his mind. So he's slightly distracted. 5 minutes later, Musk still hasn't returned, and Strauss has to ask his chief of staff, to do something basically, and his chief of staff says, "I'll be right back." Several minutes after that, they both reappear in a huddle nearby, whispering to each other. Then Musk returns to the desk. "We can reschedule for another day if this is a bad time," I offer. Musk clasps his hand on the surface of the desk, composes himself, and declines. "It might take me a little while to get into the rhythm of things," he says. He then heaves a sigh and ends his effort at composure. "I just broke up with my girlfriend," he says hesitantly. "I was really in love and it hurt bad." He pauses and corrects himself. "Well, she broke up with me more than I broke up with her, I think." Thus the answer to the question I posed earlier. It felt unexpectedly disappointing, uncontrollably horrible to launch the Model 3. This is the blue pill conditioning. Remember, the guy's 40 plus years old, 46. "I've been in severe emotional pain for the last few weeks," Musk elaborates. "Severe. It took me every ounce of will to be able to do the Model 3 event and not look like the most depressed guy around. For most of that day, I was morbid, and then I had to psych myself up, drink a couple of Red Bulls, and blah, blah, blah." Well, let's see here. In this segment over here, Musk talks about his breakup for a few more minutes with Strauss. I guess he confides with him privately because Strauss has written quite a few books now about the different types of relationships you can enter into. Then asks earnestly, "Is there anybody you think I should date?" This is to Neil Strauss. "It's so hard for me to even meet people." He swallows and clarifies, stammering softly, "I'm looking for a long-term relationship. I'm not looking for a one-night stand. I'm looking for a serious companion or soulmate," that kind of thing. Strauss tells him, "I eventually tell him that it may not be a good idea to jump right into another relationship. He may want to take some time himself to figure out why his previous relationship hasn't worked in the long run." Elon Musk. Neil Strauss, I wouldn't say is that red-pilled, but he gets this part, like this component. Why are you having, this hang up for so long where you're unable to function? I know what that's like. I've been there in my blue pill condition when I'm plugged in. I've been there where it's very difficult to operate and function. There was a time where I was so plugged in and things weren't going well in one of my businesses that I ended up being the lowest paid employee in the company for a period of time until I could get plugged in and start fixing my shit. So I understand what that can be like as a debilitating factor when it comes to running your own business. Anyway, so Strauss tells him, figure out your own stuff. His marriage to writer Justine Musk, it's Tallulah Riley, which was the actress, model that he had married twice, and his new breakup with Amber Heard. Now, Musk shakes his head and grimaces, "If I'm not in love, I'm not with a long-term companion. I cannot be happy." So that just goes to exemplify how plugged in he really is when it comes to his belief system and in dealing with women. He thinks he needs a woman to complete him, which is what is keeping him so distracted and preventing him from performing at such a high level. He touches on some great points in the world with his business ideas. He's a guy that says he wants to die on Mars, like he wants to go to Mars. He has big ambitions to do big things, but unfortunately, his plugged-in conditioning is leading him to make choices and get results which are not helping him in the long run, nor helping his shareholders, nor helping his family or his kids or anything like that. Blue pill conditioning with the world, especially when it comes to women, I think has been debilitating for him. Has probably been a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to building his businesses and trying to make the world a better place. He was married, had a set of twins and then a set of triplets. That marriage ended with his wife, Justine, I think was her name. Then he married a woman that was, I think she was about 15 years younger than him. Cool, no problem. But he broke up with her a couple years later and then remarried her again. If that's not an example of desperation or blue pill conditioning, I'm not really sure what is. So he remarries the same woman twice. Can't remember her name. Then he starts dating Amber Heard. So he's had some experience with women. He's in his later 40s. He should have some understanding about female nature, the way that it works, the way society operates. It's just something that surprises me. But I guess at the same time, I'm not completely surprised. I mean, his company's not doing, let me just minimize this. I mean, his company's not doing well. It's not making money. The whole point of a business, I know there's going to be people that are going to go, "Rich, shut up. He's changing the world. You know, he's making it a better place. He's getting us off fossil fuels. Yeah, great. Let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya and, you know, chase rainbows and butterflies and unicorns and sort of thing. But at the end of the day, the point of a business is to turn a profit for the investors and the people that run it. That's it. What I want to do is just point to some obvious facts here. You know, some people, you know, question some of the things that I talk about, but it's pretty hard for me to miss things like this, especially when I've got you guys sending me articles like this that are talking about Elon Musk, the architect of tomorrow. But then we kind of dive into it and we see that he's crippled, literally crippled, unable to stand on a stage and talk to his audience about the launch of a brand new product during the course of an interview, which is somebody that's not a family member, not a brother from another mother. He's a guy that writes for Rolling Stone, is unable to function, has to do foam rolling on the ground, and then disappears from the room for about 10 minutes or so before he's brought back in by his chief of staff. I don't know what he was doing in the bathroom, obviously trying to, you know, reconcile his feelings, his emotions or whatever. But dude, you're Elon Musk. Like, you are nearly the equivalent of Tony Stark. You've got the capacity to do some great things with your life, and you're utterly distracted by your blue pill conditioning. You're hung up over a breakup. That's my summary on Elon Musk. Love the guy. Hope that he gets his shit together and takes a red pill and has more awareness around the way the world works. As far as an investor, which is something that I do on the side for myself and my own retirement portfolio, disappointed with the way the company's performing. I think you can do a lot better with it. Love that you're trying to put out new products and you have these raving fans. But at the end of the day, you know, this cult-like following that you've created with these guys that are going, save us, Elon. You're not saving anybody if you don't have the resources and money to create and develop these products. You need to focus on that sort of shit in your life if you want to put these sort of things out on the road. I hope to see these one of these days. I know they're fast as hell. I've been in a few Teslas, but you know, I guess somewhat like Elon himself, it lacks some emotional awareness around the way that you should operate in the world today. Thanks for watching today's video. Love to hear your comments below. Smash the like button, and if you want to share this with somebody, do so. Talk to you guys next time. Peace.